This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control.
President Trump is federalizing Washington, D.C., announcing he's placing the D.C. Police Department under federal control, as you just heard there, and he's deploying the National Guard. D.C. has the fourth highest homicide rate in the country, and nearly 10,000 people in the nation's capital are without shelter. So the situation there, Cheryl, is pretty extreme. You could see the president there in his press conference. He had his whole team with him. Pete Hegseth was there, Pam Bondi, Janine Pirro, Kash Patel. This is a multi-front collaboration to be able to do this. And the whole point is something that he said that really struck me was, I'm going to talk to Vladimir Putin on Friday about peace between Russia and Ukraine. And yet I'm paraphrasing, a huge headache here at home. I can't believe I'm dealing with this in Washington, D.C., in my own country.
Yeah, the nation's capital. I don't want to see one more story of a congressional intern being beaten to a pulp or worse. And we had Victoria Coates on this morning, and her son was an intern this summer, and one of his best friends was beaten up to shreds just like 2 weeks ago in D.C. Anyway, yes, it's violent. So, okay, the National Guard issue, which I thought was interesting. So this morning, Michael Boboni made the point. He said, I don't like, he's former DHS, state DHS. He said, I don't like the idea of the National Guard in a major American city. Things did not go so well in Los Angeles, in particular when you had Karen Bass, the mayor there, telling the police not to work with anybody in the National Guard. That was in the wake of the protests earlier this year, the riots. Now, what Chad Wolf told me this morning, he said, he's former acting DHS secretary, he said, if you have the agencies communicate effectively, if you have National Guard and police and the Capitol Police, which are also going to be, they talked about Parks Police going to be a part of that as well. If you have these agencies effectively communicate and work together, you can have a very effective program that could really clean up and make D.C. the safe and beautiful city that it should be. Why are we putting all this money into redoing the White House if you're going to have homeless encampments surrounding it? That is the point. So I think I'm actually hopeful. I also liked what I saw today up at the podium because he's got his whole team behind him, and they all talked about working together.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
But you bring up a great point when you talk about what happened in California, and Karen Bass, was giving different instructions that were not that were conflicting with what the overall picture should have been, Brian. And so Muriel Bowser hasn't been able to handle the situation herself so far. It would require her cooperation as well, and that's one of the big questions.
So she sounds like she's a little more willing to cooperate, though, doesn't she? She doesn't seem to be taking the Karen Bass approach. The president sort of said she's a good person, hasn't gotten the job done. She says, I want more police officers on the force. So there seems to be some things happening there where they're kind of getting along. I just took the whole family there on Friday, actually. We were there this weekend.
Oh, wow.
I will tell you what I saw. On the public, like the national parks areas, so the Lincoln Memorial and down the mall, it actually looked the best I'd ever seen it in a very long time. Kind of the federal spaces, right?
Yeah.
But if you were moving outside of those spaces kind of into the rest of D.C., it looked the way the president described it. And I thought that, I'm bringing my kids there for the first time, and my nieces and nephews, all of us there. And I'm thinking, why in the world does the nation's capital look like this? I mean, we can do a good job, and then we've got spots where it just looks embarrassing. And I think that's part of what the president's not only unsafe, but embarrassing. So I love, and this has broad appeal, right? If you bring your family from anywhere in America to visit our nation's capital, you expect it to look like a decently run place. And that's all that President Trump is promising. I think it's super smart politically. I also think it's the right thing to do from a safety and just from like a national pride standpoint.
Right. Yeah. If you turn on another channel and you listen to the liberals, they're going to tell you, Dagan, he's exerting way too much control.
He has the authority under the Home Rule Act.
Yep.
When D.C. became an independent entity about 50 some odd years ago, he has the ability to take over the District of Columbia Police Department, period. He also, the National Guard of D.C. is under his command, period. And he in March of this year, it was late March, he issued the order making the District of Columbia safe and beautiful. And there have been 70 homeless camps removed just since March. And this is a all-together approach where it's also the Parks Police that's involved in one part of like cleaning up the District of Columbia. But I wanted to just take a moment because a lot of this is about, it all should be about preventing new victims, preventing crime, and remembering the victims of the crimes because the leaders of DC did not stop it. And I want to remember Reggie Brown. Reggie Brown was a 64-year-old disabled man. He had lupus as a teenager. He'd overcome COVID, and he was battling cancer. And he was out for an early morning walk in the District of Columbia, and he was beaten to death by 4 teenage girls. This was in 2023. They were ages, at the time, 12 to 15, and they filmed it on, it was caught on closed circuit TV, but they also filmed it on their phone. And his mother kept his casket open so people could see what they did to him. And the maximum penalty, the last of the 5 teens was convicted and sentenced earlier this year, and the maximum penalty was being detained with the DC Department of Youth Rehabilitation until age 21.
Oh, God, that's nothing.
Yeah, so that's 14 at the time, 7 years in a youth rehabilitation facility. And if you read about it, it's like how the system failed these teenagers. Let's talk about the system failing Reggie Brown and his family. Say his name. Attorney General Pam Bondi referenced Reggie Brown today, but that should never have happened. And may his memory to everyone be a blessing. But those teenagers should rot in jail before they rot in hell for what they did to Reggie Brown.
Adam, part of what President Trump promised on his platform that he would do if he was elected, which he is doing now, is making America safer again.
Yes.
That was a very, very emotional and moving story, Dagan, that you just shared with us of that individual. But the safety isn't even just about, us, our well-being. It's just about how the whole system works. It's even about how the markets work. When there's chaos in this country, things don't chug along the right way.
Correct. Well, your first point is promises made and promises kept. And well done to the president on so many different counts. And then, yes, you're absolutely right. I remember back in the New York in the 1970s when graffiti was everywhere, and just the graffiti made you feel unsafe, and there was no sense of trust, and it was just lawless. And step 1 was cleaning it up, and step 2 was putting more police on the streets. There were some controversial programs at the time, stop and frisk, if you were a police officer, right? And then that was ultimately struck down by the courts. But nonetheless, it gets to confidence in where you live, which ultimately becomes confidence in the system, which becomes a strong economy. And when you have a strong economy, you lift people out of poverty, you move forward together. And so, yes, there are a lot of dots that get connected along the way.
Thank you. Very eloquent way to answer
thank you.
that. Thank you so much.